He called me useless on a Tuesday that tasted like dry bread and medicine, the fluorescent kitchen light sputtering overhead as if it too doubted my worth. He didn't raise his voice. He breathed it soft as rust over silver, but the word lodged between my ribs like a splinter nobody can tweeze out. Useless. 4 syllables long enough to echo short enough to fit inside every silence that followed. I remember I answered with nothing, only the creak of my chair as I stood a delicate rebellion of scraped wood. My fingertips found the sticky ring a forgotten glass had left on the countertop, and I wiped it away as though erasing the shape of my own failure. He was already walking out, still talking, casting verdicts behind him, the way careless gods fling storms over seas they never planned to sail. That night, I slept beside the ghost of the woman I could have been if I'd shouted back. She watched me with eyes bright as survival, and I envied her because she was forged in fire while I was stewing in water that never quite boiled. I tasted metal on my tongue for days, regret iron, maybe the bite of unspoken rage. Everywhere I turned, his word dangled over the sink with yesterday's dishes on the mirror, fogged by my breath inside the kettle's whisper. Useless, useless, useless. But words are seeds, even malicious ones. Buried in the right soil, they grow wild vines or ironwood. I decided if he thought me unworthy of harvest, I would become the entire field. I kept quiet. He equated silence with surrender, but I was only conserving heat. In the hush of early mornings, while the city still rubbed dreams from its eyes, I drew blueprints in the margins of overdue bills. Not buildings, kingdoms, divisions of labor veins of revenue walls high enough to keep cheap profits out. He assumed my scrolling phone was proof of laziness. It wasn't memes or envy. It was market research, late-night forums where women whispered how they clawed up cliffs taller than doubt. They mapped pitfalls, recommended tools, shared passwords like contraband hope. I copied each note into a battered notebook ink, scoring the paper so deeply the next page carried phantom sentences. I learned algorithms the way other people memorize lullabies repetitively until recitation felt like heartbeat. I signed up for free trials, canceled before the fees bit down, signed up again with new emails that wore borrowed names. I traded hours of sleep for spreadsheets, ran keyword analyses the way gamblers finger dice for good fortune, and stitched a storefront out of code like patchwork silk. On the surface, nothing changed. I still burned the toast, still wore the same jeans frayed at the knees, still kissed him goodbye though his lips tasted of impatience. Yet beneath tectonic plates shifted. I read balance sheets, like love letters saw possibilities where he saw ends. When the first $47 appeared in my account affiliate commission for a product I never touched, I nearly sobbed at the raw proof that invisible labor is still labor. Success is a slow drip, at first too quiet to celebrate. It came disguised as an email subject line, payment received. Then 2. Then 10. Each notification a small pulse against the flatline he'd forecast for my life. I did not speak of it. I let it accrue interest in secrecy, a river cutting rock below ground. People romanticize overnight victories, but mine smelled like instant noodles eaten at 3 a.m. while tweaking ad copy for a demographic that didn't include me. Women who thirsted for the very serum of self-belief I was distilling in silence. I wrote slogans that dared them to outgrow every room they'd been told to stay small in. They bought, they told friends. And I watched graphs rise like dawn over a skyline I'd sketched in pencil. He still called me useless, less often almost bored with the litany. The word no longer stung so much as rustled like a moth beating stained glass wings inside a jar. I noticed he stayed later at work, maybe avoiding the space where my quiet was thickening into mystery. I filled the fridge with groceries paid for by my covert profits. He never asked where the money came from. Maybe he preferred the myth of spontaneous abundance to the truth of my growing prowess. The turning point wasn't cinematic, it was municipal. A letter arrived, property tax overdue on the derelict lot his father had left him. He cursed generational burdens, slammed doors, paced trenches in the carpet. Money, always the mirror he needed me to feel small in. I watched him rant, felt the old instinct to apologize, then realized I owed him nothing. Sell it, I offered mildly. Buyers want too much down, he snapped. Banks won't lend against a structure that condemned. I nodded, went back to my screen. A thought, unfurled, slow serpent velvet, soft, lethal. What if I bought it? What if the empire I was shepherding in digital shadows stepped into daylight wearing bricks and mortar? That night, after he fell asleep with the TV flickering judgment on our walls, I researched zoning laws, renovation grants, community revitalization funds. By dawn, I had a plan convert the lot into co-working studios for women-owned startups, subsidized by my burgeoning e-commerce revenue. I didn't need his permission. I needed only the deed. The next afternoon, I stood before a notary, hands steady as gospel signing papers that transferred failure from his shoulders to my hands, only I saw it not as weight, but as wings folded tight ready. Renovation is a messy resurrection. I wore steel-toe boots, hard hat, and the grin of someone who finally hears her own heartbeat over the doubts of others. Dust clung to my hair like glitter. Strangers assumed I was the foreman's wife bringing lunch. I corrected them just once, no love, I'm the owner. Their surprised apologies tasted sweeter than honeyed tea. Walls came down, new ones rose. Pipes sang of modern plumbing. Wires whispered promises of uninterrupted broadband. I painted the first office myself, a deep oxblood hue rich as Venus' triumph. On one wall, I stenciled a quote in gold leaf, "She who plants forests never begs for shade." Applications flooded in before the floors dried. Writers, coders, podcasters, jewelry makers, all craving a room of their own, all paying rent that funneled into expansion funds. Within 6 months, the lot was not only profitable, it was a lighthouse. Local press called it a phoenix nest for female entrepreneurs. I accepted interviews under a pseudonym at first, but anonymity is a coat that chafes once courage fits. Eventually, I stepped into the camera light, letting the world attach my face to the story. He saw the segment by accident, waiting at a barbershop, volume muted captions marching across my image, from homemaker to business maven. How one woman built an empire in silence. He came home early, remote control still in hand, eyes frantic for a lie that would restore his narrative. You said nothing, he accused. I thought of every time I had said everything and been dismissed. You never asked, I replied. He walked through the renovated halls that evening, touching polished banisters, reading framed success stories of tenants whose revenue graphs kissed the ceiling. He searched for my weakness like a thief, rummaging a jewelry box already empty. Finally, he whispered the word again, smaller this time, almost prayerful, useless. I laughed, soft and lethal. Careful, I said, it's a mirror now. And he saw his own reflection in the empire's glass, a man shrunken by the enormity of what he had failed to imagine. I wish I could say I forgave him then. Forgiveness is expensive, and I was busy reinvesting. Yet rage like capital must circulate or stagnate. So I invested that too. Funded scholarships in my mother's maiden name, donated laptops to girls whose brilliance outshone their resources, sponsored legal clinics for women untangling themselves from contracts signed under duress. Every headline featuring my work felt like a love letter written backward through time to the version of me who once believed him. I wanted her to know she hadn't wasted those tear-soaked nights. She'd been hydrating roots. Because power, I discovered, is not a crown but a current. It hums beneath your skin, invisible, until you touch another and they light up too. I keep the deed to that first lot framed above my desk. Beneath the date, in my scrawled cursive, I had added a footnote before the ink dried, purchased with the currency of underestimation. Some evenings I walk the hallways after tenants leave, lights dim to a twilight glow. I run my fingertips along door frames the way one touches piano keys, gentle, reverent, and listen to the faint echo of their day's work keystrokes, laughter, the soft thud of ideas landing. It sounds like wind through trees planted generations ago. At the far end of the corridor hangs a single photograph, me in construction dust, holding a sledgehammer mid-swing. No caption, none needed. The image answers every future doubter before their mouths part. He and I are polite in public, now estranged in private. He tells friends he's proud, but his voice cracks like old paint. He does not know how to stand next to me without measuring himself and finding the tape too short. That is his journey. My chapters no longer require his annotations. I have learned failure is not a tombstone but a tunnel. Call me useless, and I will use less sleep, less validation, less fear. I will grow a skeleton of steel beneath silk skin, will water the weeds you hope choke me until they bloom and rename themselves roses. I built an empire out of what you abandoned. I paved corridors with the shells of words you shot at me. I lit the foyer with the coals of every night I spent awake re-engineering destiny. And if you step inside, you will find your echo buried in the walls, 4 syllables smothered by the chorus of women forging futures louder than any insult. Listen closely, do you hear it? That's the sound of useless shattering into use more. I do not need applause. I harvest aftermaths. I do not need permission. I repurpose dismissals. I do not need your sorry. I siphon strength from your certainty I would stay small. This is my empire built in silence, defended in daylight, expanded by every soul who ever tasted dismissal and chose alchemy over apology. And on the darkest nights when the world feels one gust from crumbling, I place my palm against a window pane and feel the hum of light still burning in rooms I created. Each glow is a heartbeat, each heartbeat a testament that the word useless is in the end only an anagram of soul set free.